Welcome to the Aaron Werner Podcast on iCode Media. I am joined today by Mikki Collins, who I've crossed paths with a number of times in the industry and have wanted to bring her on to have a conversation, and finally we get a chance to. So I'm glad, Mikki, that our schedules were able to align. You and I both love being on airplanes, it seems.
Yes, lots of travel happening this time of year especially.
Yeah, springtime is full of convention seasons and practices looking to fulfill their New Year's resolutions and make changes and whatnot. So you're busy, I'm busy. Certainly, as I gear up towards the Vision Source Exchange, it gets really busy.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I know you enjoy being there as well.
I do. I'm super excited this year, especially to do Vision Source Exchange. We have some really good stuff planned. So.
Yes. Well, it is fun. Before we jump in, give us a brief intro. Who is Mikki?
Who is Mikki? Well, I wear lots of hats in my world. So, do you want me to start from the beginning, or do you really want me to just kind of,
I think it was Mary Poppins that said, start from the beginning, right? So, the Reader's Digest version of the beginning.
The Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
Well, I come from ophthalmology, so I actually...
We won't hold that against you.
No, I know.
I'm teasing.
So, come from ophthalmology. Actually got my start as a surgical tech. Mm-hmm. So, which my husband was military, and at the time I was like, you know what? I really need a occupation that I'm going to be able to travel with. We are moving a lot. I did not want to be a nurse. My mom is a nurse, and absolutely not. I've heard the horror stories. So I hopped into surgical tech school. Absolutely loved it. My first job was in a ambulatory surgical center, and I got dubbed the eyeball queen. So I was doing cataract surgery 3 days a week with 3 different surgeons, and we were just pumping them out like crazy. So really fell in love with eyes then, and then ended up moving to Florida from South Carolina, and really just wanted to slow down a bit, not be in surgery that much. So ended up getting into ophthalmology and working in a clinic that had 3 doctors. So we were cataract, general, glaucoma, and cornea is what we specialized in. And I was still able to utilize my surgical skills because we did some LASIK procedures. We were doing lid procedures and all of that. So that was a lot of fun. It's a long story, I feel like.
You're good.
But then we moved to Washington from Florida several years later. So in 2019, we moved out here. And again, I was like, okay, it's time to slow down. Ophthalmology, we're seeing 100 plus patients a day. And it was just constant running on my feet. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? I thought about not working for a while, actually. I was like, I'm going to try this stay-at-home mom thing. That lasted a whole 2 weeks. It did not work out for me. I went stir crazy. So applied at a Vision Source office 2 miles down the road from me, which is Maple Valley Eye Care.
Okay.
And they introduced me to the world of optometry, which, being in ophthalmology, we always heard doctors kind of, talking about optometry in not the best light always. So I went in with an open mind, fell in love with the fashion aspect of it and the optical. I was always in the front shopping the optical, talking to the reps, doing all the things, and got into the wholesale sector after that. So it's been quite the journey, but at the same time, it's been a great one. I feel like everything that I've done has led to where I am today. So
that's cool.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. And it's neat when you find someone like yourself who has a background from different worlds, right? Mm-hmm. And because I think that while we like to give ophthalmology a hard time, and they certainly like to give us a hard time, I think there's a lot of just I don't want to use the word ignorance, but ignorance into what each other's world is like.
Exactly.
Right? They're very different engagements. There's very different goals, and there's very different ways of engaging with the patient from a primary care, which is what we do in optometry most of the time, to a very clear specialized or hyper-specialized, right, surgeon, which and different needs, different patient needs and whatnot. So it's kind of neat that you bring that background, and then having the experience of mixing it with the fashion sense, which is very unique in not a whole lot of healthcare entities have that, right? You've got cosmetic dentistry, certainly cosmetic surgery, but mirroring the I want to help you see better with I want to help people see you better and help you see yourself better is really a neat place to be in.
It is, and I have always loved fashion. Fashion has been, like, I remember as a kid literally like cutting out paper things and making like my own fashion designs and all of that. So it really has been eye-opening to be in the eyewear industry, because who would have thought, right? Who would have thought that you could potentially design your own frame one day and be part of that fashion? Like, I get to work with fashion houses, which is super cool. There's just so many things that optical as a whole has brought to me that I never would have thought that it would have been possible. For instance, I used to work at Tom Davies, and Tom Davies they're special in their own right because they are constantly designing, and Tom, just to listen to him talk and look at a face and be able to pull out the features, and just watching his brain work was absolutely amazing. But I ended up...
So for those who don't know who Tom Davies is, I'm going to interrupt and go back and bring us along with you.
Yes. Okay. So Tom Davies, he is a designer out of London, and he has a bespoke line. And if you're not familiar with bespoke, it is... you are customizing every piece of eyewear, from the colors to the size. It is custom eyewear for you. So I got brought on when Tom was launching Catch London. And we launched in the U.S. We did the whole acetate kitchen thing, which if you were just at Vision Expo East, he had the acetate kitchen set up. So you're literally hands-on designing the own colorway of your frame. And this year he did something really cool, which he was sitting down with everybody at a table and designing frames with them. So teaching them how to draw it out and all of that. So it really brings an element of experience to the whole brand, and that's what I loved about that part of eyewear. I think it really got me invested in the manufacturing portion and understanding that a lot goes into making glasses. Like, I think the average person feels like they're just coming off a machine and being shipped to the store and there it is. But so many people touch the frames, and so many people, it goes through quality, it goes through testing, it goes through all of these things to make sure that it lasts and it's good for you. So that's what I love about it. But yeah, Tom, I think that experience really opened my eyes to what optometry has to offer, optical has to offer. I ended up on a red carpet at a movie premiere with him at
Nice.
one point, which was like, where am I?
Did they ask you who you were wearing? I always find that to be the funniest question in red carpets.
He designed all the eyewear for The Matrix.
Okay.
So we got to go to the premiere, the film premiere, which was
Very
really cool to see, like, Keanu Reeves just gliding by, and it was an aha moment for me.
That's pretty neat because it's an interesting world. Fashion is not my world. My wife will tell you that quickly. I found my lane and I stay in it.
Yes.
But
That's why you
So
have
it's, you bring up an interesting point. So talking about Tom Davies and the fashion houses, right? And that, fully admit that I had no idea what a fashion house was until I got into this world. Because to me, you just went to the mall and you bought some clothes and you were good, right? And so it's pretty cool what people do, and but it also can be a bit of a challenge for practices and opticians because, as Alex Martin likes to talk about, we have push-pull brands, right? And so the push brands are brands typically not well known that we have to push onto patients, and pull brands are your brands everybody knows, Ray-Ban, Oakley, Coach, that just pulls them into the office, into the optical. So how do you, when you're working with brands like a Tom Davies, since you brought him up, which is not known, how do you work with patients and then with opticians who are working with patients to help them understand how to explain the brand? Because not everybody can meet Tom. Not everybody can be at the show in the acetate kitchen.
Right.
How do you help them understand the principles of communicating just how cool and intricate the eyewear is so that people appreciate the value of what they're purchasing?
Well, I think the biggest thing is doing your own research and understanding the history and the background and what's going into the brands that you're selling anyways. Again, Tom Davies wasn't very well known, but once opticians got invested in learning about it, getting themselves familiar with Tom and the process, like he had a whole YouTube channel. He would take you through the factory and tell you different stories. He's very interactive. So I think for us, it was always get the opticians to buy in, get them telling the story, bring the magic to the patient through understanding what Tom Davies was. Now, dealing with fashion houses, for instance, like Kate Spade, which we have at Safalo, dealing with their fashion house, like it's bringing, again, everybody knows who Kate Spade is, right?
Yep.
Pretty much.
Well, I know the brand. I don't know who she is, but I know the brand.
Brand, but yes. So it's really understanding the details of the eyewear and what is going into it. I bet very few people know that Kate Spade actually has bespoke acetate.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
exactly. See, you didn't know that. So, and then Haley Frail, who is the designer for Kate Spade, she is designing right out of New Jersey. And understanding, the process and what goes into all of this. They're 2 years ahead of us right now. So they're actually designing for 2027 now. And the designs that they put out this year were 2 years ago. So that's how the fashion houses work. So it's really taking that deep dive and understanding your brands and the message and all of the things that go along with that eyewear.
Nice. So we really are living in the matrix where they're telling us what we're going to want 2 years ahead, right? It's amazing that they know what I'm going to want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're telling us what we want. They're setting it up.
They are. That's pretty neat. So that leads to a different interesting discussion too, because if you've got a whole team and an industry of people looking 2 years ahead, what's the best way to choose for what I'm selling today? And I remember, I grew up in my dad's office. I remember the opticians, Wendy was her name, hey, Aaron, come here, as a 16-year-old kid, put this on. No, I like that on you. No, I don't like that on you. And at the time, that's how decisions were made, right?
Yeah.
Based upon and Wendy did a great at her job. But that was, the Wendy or, the small team she had around her, collectively making a decision on what, East County San Diego was going to be wearing or had to have an offer for. Hopefully that's not the case today in most offices. I think that there's a better way of doing it. What do you think is the best way of making sure that we're selling and making available to patients what they should be having access to?
Well, I definitely think you have to have knowledge in the fashion world. Somebody in your office is going to absolutely be the fashion girly, and you need to bring her expertise for sure. I also have found that in doing my own research and writing ABO courses and things like that, ChatGPT and using AI to help you better understand your demographic in your area and forecasting what that's going to look like is a game changer. I think learning to use ChatGPT and understand, I live in Lake Stevens, Washington. So it is right outside of Seattle. Lots of people are moving to this area, so demographics are changing. So that means I need to tailor what I'm choosing for my office based on what is happening in real time. All I have to do is get on ChatGPT and say, hey, I need you to tell me how many males, how many females, what's the percentage, what's the age range, what are these people doing for a living, are they still working at Amazon and all of the tech places, Boeing, or is something new coming in, and do I need to understand how to bring new patients and designs and aesthetics to my office? So I'm a firm believer in using tools like that, especially nowadays.
So, very cool. I like that. So what exactly are you putting into ChatGPT to ask? What are the prompts that you're putting in?
So I have learned, I've been using chat literally since it started basically, and I've learned so much on there. So the biggest thing I can say is just talk to it like a human. Talk to it as if they're the expert. ChatGPT is the expert. Have a conversation with it and just say, hey, I am in Lake Stevens, Washington. I have an office. This is what we do. Give it as much detail as you possibly can, and then keep the conversation going. So it is going to spit out a lot of information for you. And if you want it to deep dive even further into a topic, or maybe the percentage of women in Lake Stevens is 51%, I want to know their buying habits. So I'm going to type in, what are their current buying habits? Can you give me a demographic on what that looks like? Where are they shopping? All of that. It's absolutely insane, the information that you can pull from it.
Got it. Are you asking them specifically about optical brands, or are you asking them all brands?
You can ask specifically, you can ask as a whole. I keep mine to U.S. brands because obviously the U.S. is completely different from Europe and other places around the world. Optical in the U.S. is very, very unique. I will say that. So yeah, just be super detailed and tell it exactly what you're looking for. And if you don't know what you're looking for, have it ask you questions, because it can do that too. So.
Well, that's interesting.
Chat's my bestie.
I like it, and because I need all the help I can get. I mean, my daughters just went from, tight leggings to pants that I could fit my whole body in each leg. And I have no idea why. I'm dumb, because why even ask questions about it? But it seemed to be overnight that fashion flipped, and I would have had no ideas. I do know that bell bottoms apparently are starting to come back thanks to a little Super Bowl performance. Not real thrilled about that, but like I said, I stay in my fashion lane. But it's interesting for me to see, to watch where it's going. But I would have never guessed how the trends change.
Things go viral so quickly on platforms like TikTok, and it also depends on your algorithm and your age and things like that. So I have two kids. I have a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they speak a whole other language at this point, and they learned it all on TikTok, so I'm trying to stay on TikTok and keep up with the times. So you'll see in different age groups, social media has a lot of influence as well. So the older age group is still using Facebook, and they love Facebook. You have the millennials that are using Instagram, and they're going to pull their inspiration from Instagram and Pinterest. And then you have the younger generation that's going for TikTok and really being influenced that way. So keeping up with social media as well is super important, I think.
Yep. No, that's good to know. How do your teenagers feel about mom being like so tied into fashion? Are they aligned with you, or have you become just, you know, the old lady that doesn't know what she's talking about?
I'm cringy at this point. They're like, Mom, please don't embarrass me.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So
So
nice. Very cool. How best can offices, so ChatGPT certainly, but I think that there's still a very strong role for you know, our frame reps. They go through different names. They like to call each other different things, but you know, what's the role of a good frame rep? What should we expect from them, and what do they want us to know back? Right. So, how can we better work with you, and what would you tell your, you know, colleagues out in the field like that they should be delivering for an office?
yeah, so it's definitely a two-way street. I will say that. I think if you want good rep service, you have to be a good office that is willing to open up, have different conversations. Reps are not coming in to tell you how to run your business. Reps are coming in as an asset, and they want you to sell more product. Obviously, that's what we all want to do. We want to sell more product. So utilize them as the business partner and business gurus that they are, because they know their brands inside and out. They know their business inside and out. There's so many offices that are missing things like rebates because they're returning too much product, and maybe they don't know that there's a return rate cap on when they can get their rebate. So they're missing out on money in their pocket. Are they keeping up with promos? Are they keeping up with how much they're selling and how many frames they're turning a month? All of these things your rep is so knowledgeable on, and highly recommend. Even if something we run into, especially with Vision Source offices, I will say, is Frame Dream. So a lot of Frame Dream offices are like, nope, I don't need to see a rep. I got it. Like, I'm good. And that is something that we struggle with, because you still need to see a rep. You still need to have that business conversation. You need to have your POP. You need to learn the brand. You need to know how to sell things. So it's really important, you know, two-way street. That's my biggest thing. And my biggest pet peeve in the entire world, if you really want to know,
I do.
is we all know frame reps. We all look apparently the same because people can see us coming a mile away. Whenever we're walking into an office and we see them like scatter like roaches, and everybody's like running away to hide because they don't want to talk to a frame rep today, like, that's my biggest pet peeve. Somebody have the conversation, because you never know what they're walking into your office with that day. So they could have a promotion. They could be coming in and say, hey, I have a buyback program going on right now. I can get free frames to fill up all of these empty spaces. And you would never know because you don't have the conversation.
The Myopia Collective. Cooper Vision and the AOA have partnered in a groundbreaking initiative to change the way optometrists in the U.S. treat children with myopia. The purpose of the Myopia Collective is to rally the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo and elevate the new standard of care for children with myopia. Every individual is encouraged to become a member of the collective. By joining, you commit to taking action to help slow the progression of myopia in children. You'll receive updates and information about the collective and its work in the fight against myopia, gain access to educational opportunities and resources offered by the collective, and hear from change agents, the ambassador optometrists selected to serve as advocates for community and policy change that facilitates the mission of the collective. Scan the QR code or click on the link in the show notes to join the collective today. In the past, Our focus revolved around prescribing MacuHealth or MacuHealth Plus to patients at risk of macular degeneration, while also recommending it to collegiate and professional athletes for enhanced contrast sensitivity in sports performance. However, this year's introduction of the Life Meter has been a game changer. The Life Meter revealed a concerning truth. Many of my patients have alarmingly low skin carotenoid levels, indicating potential deficiencies in essential body tissues like the retina and brain. Supported by over 30 peer-reviewed publications, Life Meter's accuracy, consistency, and effectiveness has been demonstrated across 2,000 subjects with diverse backgrounds. With this newfound insight, I can now have meaningful conversations about carotenoid levels with all of my patients, even those who may seem outwardly healthy. To learn more about this empowering technology, feel free to contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Together, let's optimize patient care and elevate their well-being.
Team Street.
Yeah, that's the gatekeeper is what we call that person.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So for those who are listening that aren't in Vision Source or don't know, I'll just give a brief summary. So Frame Dream is Vision Source's program for static board inventory, meaning that the frames that you have stay on the board. And when you order a frame, instead of the old process of taking the frame off the board, printing off the job order, wrapping it up in the little in the piece of paper, and putting a rubber band on it, and putting it into the box, and waiting for the courier to pick it up, you place an order, and the job, or the frame rather, is at the lab or sent to the lab, and the frame that you have stays on the board. And the cool part about that is that you can sell that frame 10 times, 20 times, 100 times that day, because you never took the frame off of the board. I know that that concept is growing, and in those outside of Vision Source, there's different avenues and opportunities to engage with it. Some even frame companies are direct shipping. You can order your frame and have it direct shipped to the lab. So it's a really neat way of managing your board, because there's never any holes, there's never any gaps, because the frames never leave if you're doing it properly. The downside, though, is sometimes we say, hey, I don't need to see a frame rep because I've got everything here. And a good frame rep, I would argue that that's a poor thought process, is to your point, because your job is very little selling me the new frame and a lot more of helping me understand how to merchandise, how to, even where the frames and what frames are sitting next to each other is an art. I had a talk with my friend, Jenny Drake. She's out of Nashville area, and we were talking about dry eye and how she has a very clear process of walking patients through that. And she says, I'm manipulating them. Right? I'm manipulating the entire process because I'm teeing up now for what I want to do next. And I think that I don't necessarily agree with the word manipulation, but I like where she's headed, because we know how that people respond. Right? And I haven't done the math and the research to know what frames should go next to each other and how to set that up, but y'all have. And a good frame rep can come in, look at an office, and just by moving a few things around, getting rid of POP, or adding the right ones, or putting the right touches, or adjusting the lighting just a little bit can make a world of a difference.
Yeah. On
patient experience.
Yep, exactly. So really, there's courses out there. I am a huge advocate of doing, continuing education courses. You can get on things like Coursera, and it's just online. You can take free classes in learning how to merchandise and understanding the psychology of it. There's retail classes on there that you can take. I think those are absolutely amazing, and people should continue doing research and understanding how that affects the patient whenever they walk in, because again, it's an experience. And it's really understanding the psychology behind it too, and understanding how every little pinpoint throughout your office is leading to that sale at the end as well.
Well, it's leading to the patient experience. Again, I'm going to reference Alex Martin because he's one of the smartest docs I know on understanding the psychology behind the patient experience. And I love that you brought up education. And I think the education is what we get out of it also is a lot of the mindset going into it, right? What am I trying to get out of this course? Am I trying to learn the rules of the game so that I can better set up my practice, my optical, my experience, so that patients coming in can have the right one? Am I sitting in here because I need an hour of ABO credit and I just, it's due tomorrow, so I'm trying to get as many hours as I can so I can submit? Am I getting in there because they told me that if I sit through this course, they'll give me a voucher for a free frame or a free lens? Like, why are you there? And what are you trying to get out of it? And so sit through the courses, take the courses, but with intention, right? How am I going to take this and apply it into my world so that I'm giving patients a much better experience?
And even taking courses outside of optical.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a huge game changer too. I even love watching real estate shows, and especially like on E and Bravo, the ones that have like a little bit of spice behind them.
You call it spice, I call it just crazy drama in my living room. But
really understanding how they speak and how they position things and how they sell, because selling is an art, just like how you're merchandising and how you're presenting things in your office. So I like to pull from different areas and really different industries and try to put that together in optical.
Oh, for sure. Ton Mai is... So I reference others because I want to make a point that I steal things from other people.
Yeah.
Right. It's so Ton Mai is a friend of mine out of Orange County area, Dr. Ton Mai, and he told me once, Aaron, we don't steal enough from other industries. Like, we just need to steal. And I love that because we need to learn from other industries. Sounds really soft. And he just like, nope. You see something good, steal it, make it yours.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love your point. I'm not a big reality TV person, but when I do go into stores, my wife and kids watch it sometimes, and I can't stand TV drama, but it just drives me nuts. But when I do go into stores, I'm looking at the experience they've set up for me, right? And they've all set it up, whether it's intentional or not. So I've gone into some where it's a horrible experience.
Yeah.
The floor's sticky, you walk in, you can't find things. Well, it's intentionally not doing anything because they don't care that the floor's sticky.
Exactly.
Where others I've walked in and it's very clear. In fact, one of my favorite things to do when I take my kids shopping and let them run amok is watch what the employees and associates in the store are doing at the time. Are they standing around talking to each other? Are they on their phone? My absolute favorite is watching employees take wax paper and rub down all the different bars that the clothes are hung on so that the racks slide. So they're actively working. They're actively engaged, and they can still talk to me while they're doing it. And if they need to stop, they just stop real quick, and now I've got their full attention.
Exactly.
But they're not just standing around, they're engaging, or if I see them folding or I see them kind of resorting the merchandise so that it looks better, I love that. I love to see somebody actively engage and engaging with the products.
Well, it's like, speaking about retail and shopping and things like that, go into TJ Maxx. Note your experience when you go into TJ Maxx. Are you overwhelmed? Is everything cluttered and kind of all over the place? You're having to search for things. Then relate it back to an office. I know everybody's been in an office where you just go in and it's deer in headlights because there's just stuff everywhere and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Then go into a place like Buckle. So if you've ever been in Buckle, the salespeople, they're making commission, they're coming up to you, they're trying to sell you things, they're active with you, they're engaging, but they're a little pushy, right? So you're kind of like, oh, give me a little bit of space type thing, relate that back to your optical, then go into a high-end store like Gucci or a Louis Vuitton store. And then note the experience that you have in that store and compare it to the others. I think that's so eye-opening, and everybody should be doing that because you can take little pieces back to your optical and make changes and make it your own when you walk in.
Yeah, steal away.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat to do that. I do it with my two favorites are Nordstrom's and Nordstrom's Rack.
Yeah.
Mostly because they're pretty close to each other in San Diego. I can go through. And one's not better than the other.
No.
They're just different. But it's who do you want to be, right? One clearly is I'm going to dig through a bunch of piles and go through things, and the attention is a little bit different, right? Whereas as long as it's not the half yearly sale, right? Nordstrom's tends to be a little bit more organized
Yeah.
and clean, and I'll listen to the advice of the associates there a little bit more. And they're different. They're proactive, right? They see me looking for a pair of pants, and they'll bring over different brands that kind of match and give suggestions. I'm certainly going to pay a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
But I feel, for me, it's worth it. I feel better doing it. Now, somebody who doesn't want that extra attention and wants the deal, Nordstrom Rack feels a lot better. For them, the clutter and the assortment and the people is worth it. Right? They're two totally different experiences, which you can't have is both at the same place at the same time.
Exactly.
And I walked once into a super, super high-end store, and I clearly knew I was a fish out of water. Right? It was, I think it was a purse store, actually, and although it was interesting because there was nothing in there.
Yeah.
There was a security guard out front. I had to show him my ID when I walked in, which I'm convinced it was just for show.
Yeah.
And but I walk in, I'm like, there's nothing here to buy.
Like one rack of clothes.
Yeah. And I for fun, I walked up to the counter and said, there was a purse behind a lock thing, and I said, I would like to see that. And the guy looked at me like I was like a piece of trash, and said, fine. And he pulled out a wipe and said, you need to clean your hands first. I was like, this is putting on a show, and he almost had me buying it just because he was challenging me so much that I couldn't. And but it was a totally different experience, and I can see where to the right clientele, that's attractive.
Yeah.
Right, that exclusivity is attractive.
But also something else that fascinates me is watching the people in the store, watching the customers, seeing what kind of customers are going into a Nordstrom Rack. How do they act? Where are they going? Are they being pulled to a certain area of the store and then go into Nordstrom and then watch those people and then note the differences between? I think it's just fascinating. Human behavior is just absolutely fascinating to me.
It's 100% fascinating. And for me, the doors really opened when I realized that nobody cared about me.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is when I looked through the world about here's how I would like to be treated, here's how I want things to be, and so I'm going to set up my optical experience, my office experience, whatever it is, around what I perceive I would want, which I've learned is the worst thing in the world because no one gives a damn what Aaron wants. And not a single one of those patients walking through that door in my office is Aaron, except for me. And I'm not paying my prices because I own the place, so I get different deals. So I need to set it up for what they want.
Yeah.
And so understanding what they want, and even more specifically, understanding what my ideal customer wants based upon my pool of customers and pool of patients. So who's my demographic in my area? And I've got everything from high-end old money where my office is in San Diego to Section 8 housing right across the street. So I could be anything, I just can't be everything.
So my question for you is, how are you finding out what your customers want?
It's a journey. So what we did at first is we ran demographic data. So through Vision Source, we were able to pull geospatial data and look at who the customer base is near me, right? Our patient based. I like to, for those listening who are upset when I use the word customer, I like to use the word customer because it reminds me that they have a vote. They get to choose. They're consuming healthcare, right? Even my medical patients can choose me. They can choose not to listen to me. They can choose to go elsewhere for their medical care. So I like to remind myself always that that they have a vote in this relationship. But it tells them who they are. Then I pulled my managed vision care reports from VSP and from iMed so that I know exactly who's walking in my door and what they're buying, what they're spending. And I align that with the identity that I want for us. And what I realized, again, it was a journey. We had one brand, a men's brand that was larger, and I was only selling 2 of those a year. I brought the brand in at one point in time because my staff said we needed it because we didn't have large men's frames. I was only selling 2 pairs of large men's frames, right? Large men's optical is not my jam. It's not where I needed to be, and I was spending a lot of money to have something for 2 people. And so we exited that brand out to bring in something that would help the majority of patients. And it took a while to get comfortable saying that we don't have that for you, right? I'm sorry. Here's a couple places that may have something where you want, right? I'm not cheap, right? So I don't have low-end stuff. And it took a while to be okay saying, we don't do that, right? It's okay not to do that because that's not who I am. I'm also not the most expensive game in town. We found that a lot of the push brands just didn't quite resonate with our demographics. They liked brands that were well known. You know, if you walk out with a Tom Davies, nobody would recognize that it's a Tom Davies on them. Exactly. And they weren't getting the credit for it. On the flip side, they loved the Jimmy Choos. They loved the Tom Fords because you could tell what it was. And so that worked better for us in just knowing our demographics. And so, but it was very intentional of this is what we're trying to do. And I think that's the main point is that we went looking saying we need to find out who it is. We don't know who it is. We need to find out. Yep. And then we need to build around. And then we got to listen to them. And we ask questions. You know, when somebody didn't buy from us, why? What do we not have? If we're too expensive, okay, help me understand why we're too expensive because here's our range. And if our value offering was too expensive, I get it, right? And I'm not going to tell you got to spend out of pocket on money that you don't have. But if we are perceived as too expensive, that's a different story. Now we need to change things a little bit. And the numbers tell a lot. Even managed vision care numbers, right? Just by the ways of different benefit structures. You know, the same patient buying the same product may have two different out-of-pocket expenses based upon who their managed vision care is. And so are you using that data to steer people to where, you know, you think is best for them?
Yeah. Yeah, and really, you know, training your staff and your opticians to ask questions and ask questions that are going to steer the conversation to what you're looking for. I have been in 2 different opticals with my husband within the past year. And we went into one, absolutely no questions were asked, no help styling, no nothing. I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, what is happening here? Went into another, sat down, they're bringing suggestions. They're trying to understand his needs. They're trying to understand, you know, what other activities he's doing, what does he do for work. They're asking all of the things to understand, okay, maybe he does need more than 1 pair of glasses. Maybe he needs 2 or 3 at this point. So really training your staff and having them communicate and be comfortable communicating. Because again, to your point, I think a lot of people are afraid to tell people no. Mm-hmm. On both ends, right? Like you walk in, you feel like you're obligated to purchase something, and you're afraid to tell them no. You walk out with a pair of glasses that you absolutely hate, or you're telling someone, no, we don't have that here for you, and guide them to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Because they're afraid of losing that customer. So communication is huge.
It is, and I'm glad you brought up the fear of hearing something back. So I was actually talking with a friend of mine, Amir, and I brought up role playing, and he said, Aaron, I love what you're talking about, but you're saying the wrong word because role play scares people. Just call it practice, because that's what we're doing is practicing. Mm-hmm. And so the more we practice and get the negative feedback during practice and learn how to handle it, the better equipped we are for negative feedback. And quite frankly, I believe that no is one of the best responses that you can get because you're somewhere. I'm not sure. I don't know. I got to think about it. I hate those because I don't know where I'm at, right? At least with no, I know where I am on our journey and I can work from there. And sometimes it's a no, not yet. Sometimes it's a no, I need more information. Sometimes it's a no, you're crazy. I'm not spending that much money. Whatever the no is, right? At least I've got it. But it invites me to be able to say more questions as to, well, why? What else do you need? How can I help you?
Understand the why.
Yep, help understand. And so, yeah, I love the idea of practicing. I love the idea of putting yourselves in those experiences with your teams and trying new things with your patients. Because let's be honest, they're coming back once every 18 months to 24 months, right? It's not like they're coming back tomorrow.
Exactly.
And so we can try different things, and we're all scientists at heart. We work in healthcare, and science is just experimenting and see what you happen, right? Mm-hmm. Do something, look at the results that you get, and make adjustments accordingly.
Well, I want to challenge you to do role playing with ChatGPT.
Okay.
Because I have done that, and it's really like you can tell it to be the hardest customer in the world. Give me all of the negative things, and you can shoot back, and then you could have it kind of give you feedback on your answers. So again, I'm a huge advocate for AI and learning and kind of expanding using that. So I challenge you to try that.
I will. That sounds super cool. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what? I need to introduce that to my 13-year-old daughter when she wants to fight with me. I'll be like, here's ChatGPT, Daddy. Right? You go tell him how he is ruining your life on a daily basis. Yeah. Now my kids are. She's awesome, but I have both my daughters are amazing, but they're the women that you want them to be, the strong, independent, stand up for themselves. I just don't want them to do it with me.
Yeah.
Right?
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
I was that way with my dad, and bless him, he made it finally, but I still give him a hard time.
He made it. You didn't change at all, right? It was all.
I didn't change. I didn't need to.
He finally came around.
Yeah.
No, she's absolutely wonderful and spunky as can be. But I'll tell you that one, when you get the hug, all the nonsense goes away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yep. Having two boys, believe me, they come at me hard sometimes, but at the end of the day, they hug Mom, and it's all good.
Absolutely. No, I like this a lot. So where, we don't like to use the word sales in optometry, although I think sales is a very appropriate word, because we're just trying to convince people to separate with or give up resources, whether it's time or money or both, to do something that we want them to do, right? I want you to buy a pair of glasses. I want you to buy contacts. I want you to put a drop in your eye every single night for glaucoma, right? I'm trying to convince you to give up something so that your life improves on it. What are some of the best resources that you've seen for understanding that or getting that type of training?
Like with patient education?
Patient education, understanding people, just straight sales training, and maybe are there any good books that you've read? I don't put you on the spot. Are there any good courses that you've taken? Yours for sure, right? I'll plug your courses, but what are some good resources that you've come across in your time, both in clinic and now in your role here, that are just really good helping to understand how to communicate with people, interact with people?
I personally love a few things that I keep in my toolbox. So I am very ADHD, and TikTok absolutely is perfect for me. And you can research so many different topics on TikTok as far as like management. I didn't know how to do an Excel spreadsheet when I got this job, I will admit, and I learned how to do Excel off of TikTok because it's just quick 3-minute videos. It tells me how to do something, shows me a tutorial. I know how to go do it now. So that for me is super easy and helpful. As far as the industry goes, for me, Optical Women's Association has been absolutely amazing because it has opened a network to a huge amount of women in the profession that are willing to mentor you. They're willing to have the conversations with you. Like, that's why they're there. So OWA has been absolutely amazing in expanding the network and understanding the knowledge. Again, Coursera, HubSpot has training, so free trainings that you can get. Sometimes they're 5 hours, sometimes they're 1 hour. I have most recently dove into Masterclass.
Okay.
So I don't know if you use Masterclass.
I love it.
But love it. I can binge it. I can watch it while I'm on my flights. I can have it playing in the background like a podcast. So it's really informational. And I will say, Mark Jacobs actually has a masterclass, and we carry Mark. So it's really cool to hear the fashion house part of that masterclass,
Nice.
and then put it into the eyewear portion.
Very cool. I have not taken his. My favorite of the master classes, my two, because I agree with you 100%, they're great. And you can bookmark the different sections of it, so if you have something you want to go back and reference. But Daniel Pink's, I loved his. He's written a couple good books. To Sell is Human, I think, is my favorite of his, because he just rips the Band-Aid off and says, hey, we're going to talk about selling and what it is. So I've pulled a lot of really good stuff. He puts in even like different sales pitch modalities. So how are you going to put something into it? Like and he makes it real. Plus he has one of those really soothing voices that's easy to listen to. So Drive was another one of his books that gets quoted a lot. So Daniel Pink was really good. And then I'm trying to remember his name. He was the like hostage negotiator, and I'll look it up real quick. But the art of negotiation. He talked about that, which it really really just understanding the psychology of words and how to converse, how to ask the right questions, how to kind of be open in the discussion, right? You don't ask questions because you're trying to manipulate and steer somebody, but you got an idea of where you want to go, but you need to know where they're at too, with the goal of getting you both on the same page. And so I thought that one was a pretty neat masterclass.
I just started one. Let's see. I was going to pull it up and tell you what I started. So critical leadership training. So Jocko Willink.
Yeah.
He's with Echelon Front.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one, I just started it, so I'm really excited to hear what he has to say, because my husband actually used to listen to him several years ago, because we're prior military family, and Marine Corps is big on leadership and understanding all of that. So I'm excited to listen to this one and see what I can pull from it.
Yeah, Jocko's stuff's good. Extreme Ownership that he wrote was a fantastic book. As was the dichotomy of leadership. I think you wrote both of those with Leif Babin, and
I'll have to look at those.
Very good reads. So cool. Those are good resources. I hadn't. I've got a list of books, but I hadn't thought about tapping back into or sharing the masterclass stuff that I watch. And it's nice just to put in the background. And I whether you're in the car driving, I like to listen to that kind of stuff when I'm running. With my brain kind of psychologically, in the background, it's working through problems. So a good run, and with a good book like that, or masterclass, or podcast along that topic, helps me solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, I just binged one on a flight from Orlando to Seattle. That was storytelling. And
which one was that?
What was that guy's name? Hold on, I'll tell you. It actually really was a good one. But it was on a Delta flight, so if you fly Delta...
Oh, it was on the flight?
They have a master class. They have a whole,
That's cool, I didn't know that.
Master class, yeah. So I did that one, and I did one about brain and gut health.
Oh.
So you never know what you're going to learn.
No, both very important topics.
Yes, very important.
Yeah, storytelling's good. We're... I'm not sure when this episode's going to be released, but we've got an upcoming, so if it's before or after, you'll be able to either join us live or listen to the recording. But we are reading next Wednesday, the 19th, March 19th. We do our monthly book club, Book Nerds, and we're discussing Story Brand 2.0 by Donald Miller, which is a fantastic read. I think it should be mandatory reading for everybody that works with, the public, right, and works in the sense of I've got to communicate something to you, and hopefully I'm convincing you to, again, part with resources, whether it's time or money, to do something to help yourself. And
exactly,
get new glasses, eat better because you're diabetic and overweight, all of the above. I'm trying to help you make changes, and again, part with time, money, make lifestyle changes that will benefit you. And that's a really neat way to understand human psychology, but in a sense of I'm going to help you do better by doing this.
So this one is Salman Rushdie. So Salman Rushdie. So Rushdie. The master class, it is storytelling and writing.
Okay.
So it really was interesting. It was a little odd in the beginning because he has a very unique way of speaking and telling his stories, but he explains, why he does what he does, and it really does make sense. So especially when you're writing like ABO courses and stuff like that, I write for magazines and all of that. You have to be able to, get your point across.
Yeah. Well, you want to be able to put it in a way people can consume the information well, right?
And it's entertaining.
Exactly. And there's some speakers that are fantastic and pull you in, and there's others that I feel like I've been in the class for 3 hours for an hour class, and I look at the clock and it's been 5 minutes. I aim to be the first, not the latter.
Yes.
And so understanding and knowing this, I wish I would have paid more attention in my high school English classes when we had our writing. Yeah. Yeah. I proved my math teacher right when he said you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket, and now I do. But English, I guess until ChatGPT, because now I have I have a ghostwriter in my pocket as well. But
exactly.
Knowing the rules would certainly make things easier.
Yeah, exactly. I was a C student, so believe me, I wish I would have paid more attention back then.
Hey, C's get degrees. So,
exactly.
Yes. Awesome. Mikki, I really appreciate the time and you making time to join and share your experience and your journey. So it's been a lot of fun, learning about it, but also watching all the cool things that you're doing and getting more involved, like you mentioned in the OWA and the ABO courses that you're presenting, and really sharing and giving back to the community that you love so much. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I love diving into these conversations, so it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, we'll have your contact info in the show notes, so if anybody wants to reach out to Mikki, you're welcome to do so. And I look forward to connecting and